Today's daf is Masechta Sanhedrin Daf Tzadik Vav 96. So we will begin on Daf Tzadik Hey Amud Beis, about 5 lines from the bottom. We're discussing over here 4 lines from the bottom. The Ilimole. What we're discussing over here is the story of Sancheriv. Sancheriv came, the king of Assyria came and laid a siege with millions of people against the Yehuda and Binyamin, and was attempting to take on the city of Yerushalayim and also destroy the base of Migdash. This is Sancheriv, king of Assyria. And he had this siege, and King Hezekiah was the king. And one night, as they were laying the siege, they were all killed in a plague. And that's Vayetze. I'm going to put it on the page. Vayetze Malach Hashem Vayaka b'machna Ashur. One Malach of Hashem smote the camp of Ashur. Meir Shmoina Mechamishim Elef, and that was 185,000. But that's just the main guys. So there was many people in his army, and also Sancheriv went and drafted people, kings, sons of kings from all over the world to join this army, because this was a sure win. And this was a war to end all war against the Jews. Of course, this only lasted until a couple more years, and then Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babel, came and destroyed the base of Mikdash. So now the Gemara is discussing a pasuk about what happened to the king of Sancheriv. He was the only one that survived the war, according to the Gemara. We learned previously, him and his 2 children. So the Gemara says like this: Ilu mole, if mikra kosef, if the pasuk would not have said something like this, you would not be able to say such a thing. In other words, this pasuk is so remarkable. But Hashem b'ta'ar haschira. The pasuk says God will shave off the beard and the hair and the head of the king of Ashur with a razor that Sancheriv himself had to work for, right next to the river. What does this pasuk mean? So the Gemara explains like this. This is a pasuk in Yeshaya. So the Gemara explains like this. Also, God came, and God appeared to the king of Ashur like an old man. This is very difficult to say, that God came into a human form, but so some learn that this is a remez to a king, to a angel that was doing the message of God, not that God himself came into a human form. Let's say Eliyahu Hanavi appeared before Sancheriv. And the impossible thing to say is not that God came into a human form, but that Sancheriv, the big Rasha, should have the merit to see Eliyahu Hanavi even in human form. So there's this old man that appears before Sancheriv. So the old man said to Sancheriv, Ki azal legabi malchu mizrachumarav daisisni livnayu v'keteltinhu. My amrle, when you're going to come back to the kings of the Mizrach and the Marav, and you're gonna that you brought their children into your army, and now they were killed out by the plague, what are you going to say to them? So he said, Ahu gavra bahu pachta nami asaf. I'm also very nervous about that. How can I face all these parents that just lost their children? So he said to the old man, Hey Chanavid, do you have any ideas? What should I do? So the old man said, Zil. He told Sancheriv, go to the top of the Tzadik Vav Aleph, V'shani nafshach, and change your appearance. But Maya Shani, how could I change my appearance? So the old man, which is Eliyahu Navi, said, Zil Aisli Maspera, go bring me a pair of scissors. V'gazi noch, and I will give you a haircut. So the Gemara, so he asked them, where should I bring a pair of scissors? So the old man said, Ulahu Beisa, go to this house and you'll bring it. Also, he went to that house. Ashkechinu, he found people working in the house. Also, there were angels that looked like humans that were working in the house. And they were grinding the pits of dates, right? The pits of dates. Amalahu, he asked them, excuse me, while you're working, Havli Mispara, do you have a pair of scissors? Amalei, so they told Sancheiriv, Techoin, Chad, Geriva, the Kashir, you help us out, grind some of these dates, the pits of the dates, and then we'll give you a pair of scissors. So Tachan Chad, this Sancheiriv probably never worked a day in his life. Tachan Chad, Geriva, the Kashir, he assisted in grinding a certain amount of date pits, the Sparta, and they gave him what? They gave him they gave him a pair of scissors. Ad Asa, until he came back to the Eliyahu Navi, it was dark. He got dark. Amalei, so Eliyahu Navi said to this Sancheiriv, Zil Aisinura, make a fire. As of Aisinura, they brought a fire. As they were blowing on the fire to make it light up, the fire caught fire on Sancheiriv's beard. So Azel Gazel Reishi v'dikne. So he went and cut the head and the beard, but the beard was singed in addition to being cut. Amrei, so that's what its pasuk says. Hainu deksiv. Now that you understand the pasuk, the gam es hazokin tispe. Also, the beard got singed. In other words, it doesn't say he cut the beard; it was destroyed. It was destroyed not through the scissors, but through fire. And that's, if you read the pasuk, that's really what the pasuk is trying to say. Bayomahu yigalach Hashem. Hashem is going to cut off the Melech Ashur, the king of Ashur, Bitar Haschira every Anohar, with the blade, with the scissors, so to speak, that he worked for right next to the river, because presumably the house that he went to work and grind the date pits was right next to the river, and God, so to speak, through the Malach, shaved his hair and in his feet. The hair of his feet, the gam, and as a zok in the beard, Tisba got burnt. So that's what it says. Amara Papa said, I need Amri Ishi. That's what people say. If you cut a guy's hair and he's satisfied with that, then light a fire to his beard, and you'll never stop laughing. Okay. Now Azal Ashkech, so Sancheiriv came, and Ashkech Dapab Metevus, he found a part that belonged to Noach's teva. Ama Hainu Elakah Rabba Deshezvila Noach Mitufana. This is the God that saved Noach from the flood. In other words, he believed God saved him from the flood, but also there was extra gods that assisted the saving of Noach. So one of the parts of the ship was the one that he made into a god. Amma, and he said, if I will be successful in my campaign against the Jewish people, Makriv Luhu L'trei B'nai Kamech, I will slaughter my two children in front of you. Now, his children were afraid that he's going to follow through, even though he wasn't so successful. Shemei Benahi, his children came, Ukutaluhu, and they assassinated their father, Sancheiriv. Hainu Diksiv, that's why the pasuk says, He who mishtachva beis nisroich elikav, Vandar Melech v'sharetza bonav hiku b'chev. He was bowing to this nisroich, this board of the ship of Noach, and which he considered a deity, Elikov, and his two boys, Antar Melech and Sharetza, assassinated him with a sword. And that was the end of Sancheiriv. Bayecholek Alehem Laila. We're darshaning the night, because it says here about the night that all these things happened by night. And so we're going to darshan a few things about the word night. The Gemara says, Bayecholek Alehem Laila Huva Avoda V'Yakem. During the night, Avram Avinu divided his camp and took on the 5 kings. Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, the 4 kings. Osim Malach, Nishdamad Loy Lavram, Laila Shmoy. That Malach that was that was that chance to Avraham, that helped Avraham be successful in his campaign against the kings. That malach, that angel, his name is Laila. Shnema by Laila Omar Hoira Geva. So we see that there is a angel called Laila, and that was the one to tell people to give birth. So by Cholek Aleim Laila, Laila helped him take a part, and so that he was successful in blowing out, so to speak, the army of the four kings. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha said, he disagrees than Rabbi Yochanan, Shasi Maise Laila, Shenema Min Ashmaim Nilchama Kachava Mesilaisum Nilchama Im Sisra. That there was actions happening in the skies at night that took away the mazel of the four kings so that Avram would be successful in his campaign. So it was another drasha. So that's what Laila means. Something happened at night. Night was a time of rearranging of the stars in favor of Avram. Rab Shlokish, Tava de Napcha Midbar Napcha. What Rab Yitzchak, the blacksmith, said a better drasha than Rabbi Yochanan, who was the son of a blacksmith, which is beautiful. That Rabbi Yitzchak, who was a working Amoira, said a better pshat in the pasuk than Rabbi Yochanan, who was only the son of a working father, but he himself didn't, ran a yeshiva. That's what he said. By Yirdoif Adam, the pasuk says that Avraham Avinu chased them all the way, their entire army till Dan. Rabbi Yochan said, even Shaboy Tzaddik Adon, since that great tzaddik came to Dan, Toshas Koichai, he lost his energy. Rabbi Avraham Avinu lost his energy. What happened in Tel Dan? B'nei Banav, he saw his grandsons, Shasidim Labed Avodah Zarah B'dan. He saw that they're going to do an Avodah Zarah in Dan, in the time of Ravan ben Nevat. And we have excavations in Tel Dan, near Lebanon, very in the news now, where people can see exactly where they serve. Oh, excuse me for a second. Yeah, where people see exactly where they serve their idols during the time of Ravan ben Up, where he set up a cow and he didn't want the 10 tribes to go anymore to Jerusalem. Va'afa Oisei Rasha, that Rosha. In the Gemara, when it says Oisei Rasha, that evil person, it refers to Nebuchadnezzar, who is the king of Babylon, who eventually destroyed the base of Migdash. Loinus Gaba, he did not get his power until he reached Dan. Shnema B'dan Nishma, from Dan it was heard Nacharas Susav, the neighing of his horses. Says the Gemara, Alma Rab Zera. Rab Zera said. Now Rab Zera is going to go and say that interesting things, that although we're speaking about Rishonim, the king of Assyria, the king of Babel, you should know that they had grandkids that ended up becoming Jews, not just Jews, but became great Jews. So this is hard to understand. This is like the leader of the Nazi parties having grandkids who are learning and becoming great role models in the Jewish world. Very hard to understand. Amar Rab Zeir said, Afakav Desholach Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir and Tzibim. He sent, even though Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseir sent a message from the Tzivim, he gave us Musar. He says, first of all, he says 3 ideas. Be careful of an old person that has dementia, basically, when he gets older, a Talmud Chacham, and he forgot his learning because of his sickness. You should be careful, because we find in the Aron, they not only put the luchas, but even the broken luchas. So he's a broken Talmud Chacham. Be careful. Don't make fun of him. He's Aro Bavridim, Rabbi Yehuda. We paskin like Rabbi Yehuda when it comes to slaughtering the birds. Make sure you slaughter also the veins, because to get out all the blood, and that's in Chulin. And here is the point: he's Aro. Be careful. Bivnei Amaretz. If you see a son whose father is an Amaretz, be careful of that son. Shemehen takes a Torah. From such a person, Torah can come out, because some of the successful Jewish leaders of the Jewish people, came from parents that were Amaratzim, even worse, parents who were not Jewish and were Shoim. This is, we can notify and tell them that although you became a Talmud Chacham, your grandparents must have done something special, so that you was merited to become the leader of the Jewish people. How did that happen? We tell them it. Because let's say there's a pasuk that says, Tzadik ato Hashem, ki orev elecha ach mishba adaber oisach. I say you're right, God, but I want to have a debate with you. And I don't understand something. Madua derech rishon tzelecha, shalu kol boigdei vagad. Anybody who betrays you seems to be doing well. And any Russia is very successful. Gam sharashu yelchu, their roots take root. Gam also peri, and they give off roof. Maya hadrale. What should you answer them? Maya hadrale. What did the God answer that person? Kesragayim ratzta ve'al ucha ve'eich tischara esasusim ve'er shalom ativdeya ve'tasa begoin hayardik. So he answered this pasuk, and we're going to explain this pasuk with a mashal. God is answering this question: why is it that Rishonim seem successful? So mashal adam echad. But basically, the answer of the answer is that they must have done something very good, and God rewards them. So if you see that a Rashi gets such a reward, you shouldn't be nervous, because Kolshkein, somebody who does even more, will get even more of a reward. Mashal adam echad. I'm going to give you a mashal to a person. Sha'amar, who said, Yochal al ninoras gimel parsois lefnei hasusim. I could run 3 parses in front of horses, bein bitzei amayim, even on the swampland. In other words, he was so showing off on his ability to outrun. I could outrun horses by 3 parsois, even if the horses are going through the swamplands, where it's much harder for a human to go through swamplands than a horse. I'll still outrace them. So one runner came, one marathon runner, and took him up on a challenge. They had a race of 3 miles on dry land, not in the swampland, vanilla, and this guy tired out. So they told him, in front of one marathon runner, you couldn't keep up. Lifnei asusim, in front of horses, alachas kama v'kama, in front of horses, you'll keep up. Uma shloishes milim kach, you couldn't even last 3 miles. Gimel parsois alachas kama v'kama, you won't be able to last 3 parsois, which is much longer than 3 milim. Uma bayabosha kach, and you lost the race on dry land. Kach beibitzimayim alachas kama v'kama. On the swampland, certainly you're going to lose the race. Also you. I paid the reward for Nebuchadnezzar because he took 4 special steps in my honor, says Hashem. I paid him a big reward because he was running for my honor. You're wondering why he's successful and why he became the ruler of the world. And when I'm going to come to pay the reward of Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov that ran before me like horses, alachas kama v'kama, certainly, most certainly, I'm going to pay them an enormous reward that you can't even imagine. Hainu d'ksiv, now that's what the pasuk says. Lanaviyam nishba libi b'kirbi rachafu kol atzmoisi. So to the Nevi'im, my heart was broken inside, my bones shook. I was like a drunk person, like a strong person that had too much wine, because of God, because of His holy words. So this was a very good answer. Now, what was the special thing that Nebuchadnezzar did that God rewarded him for? So Hanu Dala Parsois Mahi. What was the 4 steps? 4 steps that Nebuchadnezzar showed respect for God. The pasuk says, "Be'eli shahi shalach Merodach Baladan." The early king of Babel was named as Merodach Baladan ben Baladan Melech Babel Sfarm. he sent a message, like a get well letter to Chizkiyahu the king. So it doesn't make sense. Why should the king of Babel send his enemy, so to speak, Chizkiyahu, congratulations that you got well. Because Chizkiyahu got better. That's why the king of Babel, Merodach Bal Adon, sent him a gift and some letters. So the Gemara says, leaders So he didn't understand that something special happened in the world when Chizkiyahu became a king. Now Chizkiyahu was a tzaddik, and he was sick. He got sick. The Gemara says he didn't want to get married because he saw Baruch HaKodesh that he's going to have an evil son called Menashe, and God said, "You don't take that into account. You must get married." Fine. His father, Chizkiyahu's father, was also Russian. His name was Achaz. And Chizkiyahu turned the whole country around, and he saw the Ruach Kodesh that he's going to have a son that's going to reverse all the success that he had. So the Amar Rabbi Yochanan said, "Oisayim, that day, Shemesh boy Achaz, the father of Chizkiyahu, whose name was Achaz, died. Shtei shoyis haya. The whole sunlight was 2 hours. God took away 8 hours of the day. Somehow the sun went back and was missing about 10 hours of the day. Sorry, 10 hours of light. But when the reason why God wanted a short day, because he wanted that Achaz should be buried without any eulogies, and they should throw him into the grave and forget about him. When Chizkiyahu became sick and healed, so God returned those 10 hours back to planet Earth. You have to make it up. The time has to be made up if it was taken away. So the 10 hours that was lost came back that day that Chizkiyahu became healed, and the sun stayed out an extra 10 hours. So this was a worldwide event, the day that Chizkiyahu became healed. Amalei, so the king of Babel said, "My high, what's going on over here?" Amalei, they told him, Chizkiyahu chalash v'yispach. Must be that Chizkiyahu got sick and he got healed. Alma, so Baladach said, Muradach Baladan, that's his name, the king said, Ike Gavra Kahai, there's such a person on this world that could cause the sun to stay out an extra 10 hours. And I'm not sending him a greetings. He sent him a letter. Greetings, King Chizkiyahu. Shalom l'karti Jerusalem. Greetings to the city of Jerusalem. Shalom, greetings to the Kol Rabbah, to the great Rabbah, to the great God. So now notice the order: Chizkiyahu, Yerushalayim, and then God. Nebuchadnezzar safran de Baladan. Now, Nebuchadnezzar had a high job, and he was the one that was the scribe of Baladan, and he normally wrote the letters. He wasn't there when this letter was written. When he came, Amalahu Heche Kasivna Kasvisa. How did you write the letter? Amalei said they told him Hache Kasvina. We wrote it this way: Shalom Malka, Shalom Karta, Shalom El Karaba. Amalu, so he said, Kireisa El Karaba. You called it a great God, the Kasvina Leila Basoif, and you wrote it at the end. Ama, he said, El Hache Kasavi. You should write it this way: Shalom El Karaba. Shalom Lakarta Jerusalem, Shalom Lamalkat Chizkiah. First, you give the greetings to God, then to the city of Jerusalem, and then to Chizkiah. But the most important thing is God. Amrulay, so they said, carrying the Igrasa Ilavi Pavanka, the one that read the letter, he should be the messenger. In other words, if you want to do something about it, do something about it. Rahat Basrai, he ran after it. The Kederoid, he ran after the guy who was carrying the letter 4 steps. When he went 4 steps, some say it was 3 steps, Gabriel stopped him and brought the messenger back to him. Rabbi Yochanan said, if Gabriel did not come and stop Nebuchadnezzar, and you would have ran even more steps, then he would have been super successful. He would have totally destroyed the Jewish people. He was successful in destroying Jerusalem and destroying the Beis Hamikdash, but not too successful in destroying the Jewish people. So Rabbi Yochanan said if he would have ran even more steps, The Jewish people would have never had any success. And that's therefore, they say that's why, according to some opinion, it says you can see it on the side, it says that he took 3 steps, and hence we take 3 steps before we start Shemoneh Esrei, to show God that even for 3 little steps, you're going to reward us. Now, the Gemara says, just like you rewarded Nebuchadnezzar, my Baladan ben Baladan. Why is this king called Baladan ben Baladan? He should be just called Meroidach ben Baladan. His father's name is Baladan. Why does he call himself Meroidach Baladan? Actually, his name is Meroidach. So why does he use his father's name? Amru Baladan Al-Kahava. His father Baladan was a king. Yishtana Ape, and his face changed. Vahabaki the Kalba. He became looking like a dog. Somehow his face, because of a disease, deformed, and he became hideous to look at in public. So they brought his son to take over the kingship, but he still wanted to show respect for his father. When he wrote his name, he write his name and the name of his father, Baladan the king. So you'd write his name, Roidach Baladan, just to show respect for his father. A son sometimes gives respect to his father, and a servant gives respect to his master. Ben Yechabed Ava, this is a good example of Tanakh, where a son respects his father, Hada'aman, that's what we just said. The Eved Adoinav, and a servant shows respect to his master. The Ksiv, the Pasuk says, on the 5th month, which is Rosh Chodesh Av, on the 10th of Av, which is the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuzaradan, his general, Rav Tabacham, the head of all the killers, Amad Lefnei Melech Bavel, he stood right in front of the king Yerushalayim. And Vayisov Espeis Hashem, they burned the house of the God, Espeis Melech, in the house of the king. Shlomo Melech's house on the first Beis Hamikdash. It seems that Nebuzaradan, with the instruction of Nebuchadnezzar, burned down the Beis Hamikdash. So, if the pasuk says that Nebuzaradan was doing this all in front of the king of Babel, Nebuchadnezzar, it must be that Nebuchadnezzar was in Jerusalem when this happened. So the Gemara asks, we go to Amid Beis, Tzadik Vavam Beis, Misalak Nebuchadnezzar Lushlaim, did Nebuchadnezzar end up going to Yerushalayim? Well, the pasuk says, they brought Tzidkiyahu, the king, to Rivlasa, to the king of Babel, who was in Rivlasa, which was some place in Iraq. V'yama Rabbi Abozu Antiochia. So it seems that Antiochia is not part of Israel. So he wasn't in Israel during the time of the Beis Hamikdash being destroyed. So the Gemara says, so Nebuzaradan appeared before his master king, who was in Jerusalem. How his master was not in Jerusalem. So we see that sometimes a servant will have such respect for the king, even though he's not really there. Along the chariot belonging to the Nebuzaradan, he had a graffiti image of his boss, of Nebuchadnezzar. And just looking at that picture frightened him. In his mind, he had such fear for Nebuchadnezzar. It appeared to him, Nebuzaradan, it appeared to him that his boss, Nebuchadnezzar, was right there. Either way, it's a concept where you see a slave will be so fearful of his master, even though his master is not present there. Amar Rava said, Ta'ain Tlaismeis Kundyarsa Narga. Let's read it inside. Plus mais mea kundyasa narga the puzzle the shola bapaza shadle Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar sent to Nebuzaradan 300 mules that were carrying iron axes that cut iron. Now, so that was the tools to break through the gate, the metal iron gates that was surrounding the Jerusalem. Kulu balalisa, and they all Kulo bal lesinhu, all were incapacitated. Dasha b'Yerushalayim, trying to get one wall through, they destroyed all these iron axes. and so with one door caused all these tools to go bad. So the Vuzardin wanted to give up. Alma Mustafina, I'm nervous if I try to push too hard. They shouldn't happen to me what happened to Tzchancherev, where everybody was killed out. Now for Kakala, a voice came out, and he said, Shavar Bar Shava, jumper, the son of a jumper, Vuzardin, Shvar, jump. It's your chance. The Mate Zimda, the Mikdash Charev, now is the time. Not during the time of Sancherev, but now is the time, the Mikdash Charev, that the base of Mikdash will be destroyed, the Heichola Mikli, and the Heichel will be burned. Pashlu Chad Naga, there was one, one axe left. Asa Machia Bekufia, he started banging on it, banging against the gate with the dull part of the axe, and it opened up, and the gate fell apart, and he came through. He became known as the wielder of axes upward in a thicket of trees. So they were killing Jews until the came to the temple, to the sanctuary. Adlek Beit Nura, they lit the temple on fire. Gava and Chala, the temple started to go up, rise up. This was built by Shlomo HaMelech. It started to rise up to heaven. In heaven, they threw it back down. Shnema gas darach Hashem lebsulas bas Yehuda. They would Hashem trampled on the Basulas Bas Yehuda, which was the Heichal. It threw it back to earth because God didn't want it. So at that time, Vuzardin became haughty. He said, "Look at this! I did the ultimate achievement of destroying the temple." Okay, so Nafak Baskal came out. Amalei and told him, "The Jews were already dead people. You burnt a burnt building, and you burnt and you grounded flour. I mean, in other words, your actions was not what caused the destruction. The destruction was already there before you came. Take millstones and grind flour, uncover your locks, tuck up the train, uncover the leg, pass over rivers. But you don't grind flours. You grind wheat. So you grind flour. So it's a remez that the Jews were dead already. The Beis Mikdash was burnt. So they told Nebuzaradan from heaven, don't be haughty about what you did. Now the Gemara says, we're going to end with this. He saw in the sanctuary that there was blood of the Zechariah the Navi, who was a human being who was saying to the people to do tshuva, and they killed him, and his blood was always bubbling somehow in the sanctuary. So Amalahu my so he told him, what's going on over here? Amrulay, so they were embarrassed to tell him. So they told the Vuzardin, the Jews told the Vuzardin, Zan Zvacham de Ishpech. This is the blood of animals, of slaughtered animals that spilled on the floor here. I don't think so, he said. Amalahu Aisiba Nasile Imedami. He said, I'm going to test it out. He brought animal blood and he compared it, and the bloods didn't look similar. So he knew it was a human blood. So Nebuzaradan told the Jews, he told the people who worked in the temple, Galilee, tell me what this blood is. If you're not going to tell me, so I'm going to comb your flesh with iron combs. I'm going to torture you to death. So they finally gave in, and they said, I Kohen V'Navi, this blood is human blood. He was a Kohen, and he was a prophet, the Zechariah. The Nambale Yisrael B'Chubin et Yishlayim. He was always saying prophecy regarding the destruction of Yerushalayim. And so the best way to deal with such a person, we killed him. And that's why his blood is bubbling, and it hasn't stopped bubbling since we killed him. So the Vuzardin said, I'm going to appease him. He started killing rabbis right in front of the blood, and the blood did not stop. He brought little kids from the yeshiva and killed it on this right next to Zechariah, and Zechariah's blood did not stop bubbling. He brought young Kahanim and killed him right next to the blood, and the blood did not stop bubbling. Till he killed 940,000 people. It's an amazing amount of considering the technology that he had to kill people. He brought 940,000 people to kill them, and the blood still didn't stop bubbling. So concludes the Gemara, Karv Lagabe. So he went very close to the blood. Amar, and Buzardin said, Zechariah, Toivim shebehem ibadtem. The best of them are lost. Do you want me to kill every single Jew? Miyad nach. Then it stopped. From when he said that statement, the blood stopped. The blood stopped bubbling. Here at tshuva b'dati. So the Gemara ends off with a fascinating thing. The Buzardin, the one who's the chief responsible of all this murder, he had a tshuva. Aman, he said, the Jewish people only killed one person, it was Zechariah. Kach, they got punished with all this, that the whole family, hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed because of this one Jew. Who Gavra, because I killed one person, myself, I was responsible for killing so many people. Ma what's going to happen to me? Arak, he ran away. Shada Purtisa Lebesa, he sent a will to his home, his Gayer, and he became a ger. He became a convert. And the Gemara is going to say what happened after he became a convert. That's tomorrow's Gemara. And we're going to learn that some of great people came out of his lineage. So we'll deal with that tomorrow. So we end today.